Hey Giants fans, welcome back to Giants Latest. We have a lot to discuss today, so let's go ahead and get right into it. I want to start with Skattebo. He had his surgery done, and the good news here is that he should be ready to go for the summer. So they did find a couple other things when they ended up doing the surgery. I think we discussed that yesterday, but all was healed successfully. Surgery went well, and he's looking good to be on track. So that's great news. Dable also said that he's already back in the building. So he was in a meeting, and one of the reporters said, is he bringing the type of scat energy that we're all so used to? And he said, he's only a day or two out of surgery. So, basically like he's getting there, but he's not there yet. So I'm so happy that he's back in the building. Malik is supposed to be coming back from Dallas today on Thursday. And then he will be right back in the building as well. So these guys are getting right back into it, which is great news. And assuming that they don't have any setbacks, they should be ready to go. Again, Scat towards the summer and Malik closer probably to the fall. So with that being said, we need to talk about the Giants injuries and we need to talk about the Niners injuries because there's quite a few across the board. And for the Giants, I have some concerns, shall I say. So we had quite a few players who did not participate in practice on Wednesday. And I don't think much is going to change from Wednesday to Thursday when you guys see this. So Paulson Adebo is dealing with a knee. Now, Dable never specifically said what it was, but Dan Duggan, according to his sources, said that it's an MCL sprain and he could be out a couple weeks. So Adebo did practice today, but it was completely on the side with the trainers. He didn't do anything with the group. So it's not looking good for him. Next up, we have Daniel Bellinger, who's dealing with a neck injury. He did not practice on Wednesday. We have Jermaine Illuminor, who's dealing with a pec injury. He also did not practice, but he did tell the media that he's going to play on Sunday. Now, I'm a little worried about Illuminor because he was dealing with a back injury last week, and then he didn't have a great game on Sunday. And now I'm like, now if he has a pec, is that going to affect his game on Sunday too? I mean, obviously we want him out there because this team's still trying to win football games. And there's no Nick Bosa, at least on the other side of the ball, but still, right? So a little worried about that, but we'll see as the days go on. I mean, he said he feels okay. We'll see. Next up, we have Cordell Flott, who still is in concussion protocol. I am not expecting Cordell Flott on Sunday, which is very upsetting because if we're not going to have a Debo and we're not going to have Flott, we're in trouble, to say the least. So it's not looking good. I've said this before, concussions are serious and they should be taken seriously. But the Giants, from what we've seen, it is very rare that a player makes it through concussion protocol in 1 week. Maybe the Giants are extra cautious with them. We know that their medical staff is more conservative than a lot of others. I see a lot of other football players on other teams that end up with a concussion and they are right back the following week. So I don't know why the Giants seem to be a little bit longer with that, but I am not expecting to see Flott out there on Sunday. Next up, we've got Chauncey Golston, who's dealing with a neck injury. He has been dealing with all sorts of injuries. And to be honest, I don't really think we've missed him as much as maybe we thought he would if he didn't play. So that's is what it is. Probably won't see him on Sunday. Next up, we have cornerback Art Green, who's dealing with a hamstring injury. He left the game pretty early last week, so I'm not expecting him to play on Sunday. We know how hamstrings are, and again, we know how this medical staff is, so it's not looking good for him. Jalen Hyatt had his wisdom teeth removed, so he's going to be back at practice today. Nothing to worry about there, because I know everyone is so worried about him considering he was inactive last week, but, he might not even be active again on Sunday, regardless of the wisdom teeth. So time will tell. And then next up was Greg Van Roten, not injury related. He just had a veteran rest day. And we know that, the medical staff and team like to do this from time to time. There were a couple guys that were limited. Bo Collins, who's dealing with a quad, Javon Holland, who's dealing with a knee, and then Chris Manhertz, who's dealing with an illness. Out of those three guys, I want to talk about Holland because obviously we very desperately missed Adebo last week, but I think we also missed Holland maybe a lot more than a lot of us expected. So having him back on Sunday would definitely be a benefit. Now, he's dealing with a knee injury. There's been no real diagnosis. No one has said anything about what type of knee it is. He was doing individual stuff on the side today, and it seems like, from what I understand from the reporters who were at practice, he did more than Adebo did. So that's a good sign. And I think there's a pretty good chance, especially knowing that he was limited on Wednesday versus it did not practice, that we're going to see Holland on Sunday. And at this point, I will take whatever I can get. So that's good news. And then the Giants are opening up the window from IR for cornerback Rico Payton. He was dealing with a groin injury. I believe he went on before the season even started, kind of similar to Eric Gray. Surprising that Eric Gray is not back yet, which again, I know we're all just dying to see him. I'm joking. The same thing goes with Rico Payton. Like the way that our cornerbacks are, I mean, is anyone better than Tay Banks? Maybe. Certainly not someone like Eli Apple or Sam Beal, but you guys, we know. But anyway, I don't know. Maybe anyone's better than Banks. And if Payton is out there, maybe he'll be better than Banks. I can only keep my fingers crossed that whoever they throw out there is better than Tay. So we'll see how things go over there with the Giants, but it's gonna be very interesting. So let's go ahead and talk about the Niners injuries because we have some updates regarding them. Now, I know as Giants fans, we're all like, we are the worst injured team in the league. We are not the only injured team in the league because we have it bad, the Niners have it worse, which I know sounds statistically impossible, but it's true. They've lost quite a few guys. They lost Fred Warner. They lost Nick Bosa. They had Brock Purdy, who's been out for a while, Ricky Pearsall, like the list goes on. So they definitely have lost some guys. They are starting to get some guys back, but their injury report on Wednesday is as follows. They also had 5 players who did not practice. One of them, who's Ricky Pearsall, their rookie wide receiver, who has been playing pretty well before he got injured. So I don't think it's looking great for him on Sunday. Again, typically guys who don't practice on Wednesday, doesn't look good for them on Sundays, but you never know. Next up is D. Winters, who is their will linebacker. He did not practice. He left the game early last week. And again, not practicing on Wednesday is not great. Next up is Brendel, who is their starting center. He also did not practice. So for the second week in a row, we could be dealing with a backup center. And we're going to talk about Dexter Lawrence in a minute, but this is an opportunity to get to the quarterback through the center. Next up, Alfred Collins did not practice. He is their left defensive tackle, but he's one of their backups, so probably not missing much there. And then lastly, Bryce Huff, who is their left defensive end, also did not practice. So again, dealing with a lot of injuries. Now, when it comes to the quarterback, we are probably not going to see Mac Jones because Brock Purdy was a limited participant on Wednesday. So we are probably going to see Brock Purdy back with the Niners. Now, it's his first game back in a few weeks. Does that mean that he's rusty and not looking like the normal Brock Purdy? Possibly. Hopefully, the Giants could take advantage of it if that's the case. And then next up, we have Elliott, who is their right defensive tackle, who is listed as limited participant. So that's where we're at with the Niners. They are more injured than the Giants, again, which I know is crazy to say, but obviously both teams are struggling a lot with injuries and, you know, the backups have to make moves. So we're going to talk about keys to win, but first I want to talk about Dexter Lawrence because I'm sure everyone has heard about this by now, and I think it's something we should discuss, again, especially knowing that they have a backup center. So for those of you who don't know what's going on, Carl Banks, the legendary Carl Banks who won 2 Super Bowls and is one of the best linebackers the Giants football team has ever seen, organization has ever seen, called out Dexter Lawrence on his podcast. Now, if you don't follow Carl Banks on Twitter, you might not know everything that goes on with Banks in the Giants world. So him and Bob Papa do a podcast every week on the Believe Network, and sometimes he calls out players. He has said that Newman has taken bad angles. He has, said that Darius Slayton has to catch that ball, things like that. But he typically is not super hard on players. And a lot of Giants fans are say that Carl's a mouthpiece for the organization and he gets paid by them, so he never criticizes them and yada, yada, yada. This is what happens on Twitter, which that's why Twitter is what it is. So anyway, you've got people saying that. So now Carl comes out and he's actually kind of harsh on Dexter. And I have to say, I think Dexter Lawrence needed that. I think it was a good thing for Carl to say it. Carl has relationships with these players. He is in the building. He watches film. He does a show with Brian Dable. Him and Bob Papa do the play-by-play. He's in the building all the time. He was at all the practices in the summer. So he knows these guys, and I'm sure he has some sort of relationship with them. And he said, whatever I say on this podcast, I would say to the players' faces, and I'm not ashamed and I'm not afraid of it. So he calls out Dexter Lawrence and said that after watching the tape and watching what he's seen, he does not know the circumstances and he does not know if Dexter Lawrence is still injured, but he does know that players on the other side of the ball from him on opposing teams are disrespecting him and they do not have the respect for him that they used to. Yes, he's still getting double teamed, not to the same rate that he was getting double teamed at last year. And last year, he was getting double teamed and he was still blowing by people and mowing people over. And that has not been the case this year. So I know everyone's upset about the defense and they're calling out Newman has to do this better and Drew Phillips and Cordell Flaw and this and that and the other guy and everyone in the secondary sucks. But Dexter Lawrence has not been Dexter Lawrence, and he has not been the impactful football player that we've seen week in and week out for the last couple years. And in my opinion, I think that unfortunately the losing is getting to him, and I don't blame him. They've been a losing football team since he's been here outside of 1 year, which they couldn't even make it past the first round of the playoffs in, or they couldn't, advance past round 2, I guess. So sometimes I think everyone can deserve a little bit of motivation, right? Whether it's from your boss or your sibling or your spouse or a former player, whatever. Sometimes we need that. We need a little swift kick in the ass. And Dexter's response was, if that's what he thinks, then fuck it. He's delusional. And you know what, Dexter Lawrence? Be pissed off. I have talked about this before. I want to see some emotion and some attitude from these players. And all I hear from Dexter Lawrence is it's very casual in his post games. We need to do better and we can play better. And it's the same shit. I know you get paid an assload of money to do whatever you want to do, but Brian Burns is sobbing at his locker, sobbing. This man leads the NFL in sacks. He's right up there for the amount of tackles for loss. He is a defensive player of the year candidate. And he plays hurt week in and week out. And every goddamn snap, he gives it 100%. And he's sobbing at his locker after that Denver loss. And you have Jackson Dart, who's been in the league for 5 seconds. And in his postgame after the Eagles game, he was horrified, speechless, to the point where he was trying to figure out the right way to say that he was so upset and so disappointed that they were blown out against Philly the second time around. That is the type of player you want on this football team. You hear it from Scat, who takes accountability after he fumbles the ball. You hear it from Malik Neighbors, who says, all I want to do is win. What about the rest of you? Darius Slayton, Dexter Lawrence, any one of you who's been here for a long time, who got a contract extension and got paid a lot of money, except for Andrew Thomas, because Andrew Thomas shows up on the field. It's your job to step up. So if Dexter Lawrence is pissed at Carl Banks and he doesn't like what Carl Banks had to say, good. Go out there on Sunday and whoop the backup center's ass like you didn't do last week. I want to see some fight in these guys. Act like you give a shit. Okay? You get paid a ton of money to live your dream, and that's amazing. We love Dexter Lawrence. That interception in week 3 or week 4 was incredible. One of the best things that any of us has ever seen. And he's been dead silent ever since. So, I want to see it. We love Dexter Lawrence. You got to be held accountable. And this is a problem that I have with the coaching staff and with the organization as a whole. No one gets held accountable for making mistakes. It's why they are the second team in the league for the most amount of penalties and penalty yards. It's why Shane Bowen is still here after watching this defense collapse week in and week out for 2 years. There's no accountability. So if it has to be from former players who have to get on their fucking podcast mic and talk shit about a player, then so be it. I hope Carl Banks does it for every goddamn player on this roster that needs it. So, that being said, how do the Giants beat the Niners? Well, number one, you got to slow down Christian McCaffrey. He did not have a good week last week. They were not running the ball successfully. He didn't have a touchdown. He didn't even have 50 rushing yards, which is absurd. This guy was a week before that, they're talking about how he should be the MVP candidate because he's having an incredible season. This is not allowed to be a get-right game for CMC and the Niners, okay? Just because they're getting Brock Purdy back doesn't mean that CMC is going to come out here and run all over us because Saquon and Tank Bigsby did, okay? Figure it out. Defense, Shane Bowen. Figure out how to slow down the run. You don't have to stop it. You have to slow it down. Do not let Christian McCaffrey beat you on the ground. Unacceptable for this team to give up over 200 yards rushing again. Unacceptable. The fact fact that they have a backup center, again, take advantage of a weak offensive line. Their left guard is also dealing with some sort of injury. He was limited in practice this week. Exploit that. Use it to your advantage. Shane Bowen, blitz. Let Dexter get after this backup center. Roy Robertson Harris, Kayvon, Abdul Carter. I don't care who it is. Let them all blitz and go after the quarterback. Put pressure on Brock Purdy. Again, it's going to be his first game back in a few weeks. He might be a little rusty in the beginning. Take advantage. Now, moving to the offensive side of the ball, start off fast. You have to have a fast start against this team because if they start to lose that momentum at all and the Niners pick up speed with the run game, it's over for us. So they have to start fast. And I really want to see them be able to do that too, because if the defense can play complementary football to the point where they can really slow down Brock Purdy and have him make some bad decisions and stuff like that, you got to let the offense keep rolling. They don't have Nick Bosa out there. They don't have Fred Warner, who's one of the best linebackers in the NFL. Take advantage of that. I really want to see a strong run game from Tyrone Tracy this week and Devin Singletary, because you know we're going to see him too. So be able to run the ball successfully. The number one thing I want to see from this football team, especially from the offense, ball security. The Niners defense is leading the NFL in forced fumbles. We are not going to contribute to that. Do you hear me? Hold on to the ball. I don't care whether it's Dart, Singletary, Tracy, who all have dealt with a fumble or two at some point throughout their career. Tracy had a few last year, a couple of them in the red zone. Singletary has had a few. This is not the week. Focus on ball security. I think if the Giants can do that, if they can hold on to the ball and they can run the ball successfully and slow down CMC. Like I said, you don't have to stop him, just slow it down. They will win this football game. So that's what I'm looking for them to do on Sunday against the Niners. Tomorrow we are going to talk about players to watch, so make sure you subscribe for more.